anything that had happened.
So now the bullet was ejected, what happened?
Then in the interim, his firearm license had been given to the Metro police officer, to which he asked him a question, Mr. Pretorius. Then he said, well, actually, if you could read, it would state Mr. Pistorius.
What happened to the bullet?
Eventually, I had gone around to the side of the car, and after trying to move the seat, moving it forwards and backwards, eventually I did find the single bullet.
What did you do with it?
I had then given that bullet back to the accused.
You know what he did with it?
I think he had put it back in his magazine of the weapon. I did not see him do that, but from what I can imagine, he would have put the bullet back in his magazine.
But you did not see it?
No, I didn't. The lady.
So what happened then?
Shortly thereafter, another set of Metro officers arrived on the scene and said, we've been chasing you since the toll plaza.
I didn't hear that.
Shortly thereafter, another set of Metro police had arrived and said, we've been chasing you since the toll plaza, my lady.
Yes, and then?
Shortly thereafter, after having been issued with a speeding fine, we had then proceeded to leave the place of the fine.
What was the accused's reaction to what happened when you left?
He was furious about that. Someone else had touched his gun.
And from there, where did you go?
From there, we had proceeded to go to a house regarding something to do with a firearm.
Whose firearm?
One of Oscar's firearms. Either pertaining to a license or an actual gun. I'm not exactly sure about that.
And from that particular house, where did you go?
From that house, we had then gone towards the Athol Square. We landed up at the Gourmet Garage for dinner, my lady.
Something else happened en route.
Yes, it did, my lady.
What happened?
I was driving. The accused was in the passenger seat. Sam Taylor was in the back of the car. And then without prior warning, he shot out the sunroof.
What happened?
Instinctively, I had literally just moved over to the right-hand side of the vehicle, seeing that the noise had gone off above my left ear, my lady.
How do you know that he shot out of the sunroof?
Once I'd flinched over to the right-hand side of the vehicle, having ducked down, I had seen the weapon being brought back in through the sunroof.
Did you say anything?
Apologies for my language, milady, but I asked him if he was fucking mad.
What did he say?
He just laughed, milady. By that stage, it literally felt as if my ear was bleeding. I had a constant ringing in my left ear.
Did you inquire from him why? What was he doing after the shot was fired?
He just laughed about what had just happened.
Did you discuss this incident with him at all?
No, after that, basically we just carried on driving.
Now, you were able to point out to the police the specific spot where this happened. Were you?
From what I remember from what I remember thereof, yes, I did.
There's a file in front of you, Mr. Fresco. That file. Would you open that file at HI? It's a little blue label. If you open the first photograph in that little album, it's 1143, am I right?
Correct.
You can also see it on the screen if you want to. Does that look familiar?
It does, milady.
Can you point out whereabouts this happened? Let us just describe that to Port. The way we look down, there's a traffic light.
Yes, now heading through the traffic lights, going towards the direction of the arrow, heading towards Johannesburg, milady.
And one can see a white car being parked there.
Correct, milady.
Do you know who that is?
That would be Mike van Aert and myself standing next to the vehicle, milady.
So the white car just parked the other side of the traffic light that you and Captain van Aert is what is indicated by that specific that area there.
That would be the road carrying on straight towards the Johannesburg direction.
And where was the shot fired?
Out the sunroof, travelling in that direction.
If you just turn the page to 1144, that's a close-up of the white car, am I right?
Yes, milady.
And can you recognize yourself there?
Yes, sir, I can.
There are two people there, the one on the right, that's you.
Yes, milady.
And the intention with that day is to indicate to the captain where the shot was fired through the sunroof.
Correct, milady.
And if you turn the page 1145, that's not important, but 1146, that's just a wider angle photograph of where it happened. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Fresco, that's not the only shooting incident that you've been involved in as far as the accused in this matter is concerned. There's another one as well.
Correct, milady.
That was where?
That was in January of, should be of last year.
And where did this happen?
This had happened in Tasha's in Melrose Arch, milady.
Mr. Fresco, in that same file you have, if you open at the yellow marker, mark G, it's one back, you'll find a file consisting of photographs. Now, you say it happened at Tasha's. Why did you go to Tasha's on that particular day?
One of the accused's running friends or running training partners had arrived from overseas, and he said he would like me to come and meet him.
And that person was?
Martin Rooney, my lady.
Now, who was in your company on that particular day in Tasha's?
There were 4 of us that day. There was Martin Rooney, the accused, Kevin Lorena, and myself.
Did you go there in the same car, or did you arrive there at different times?
I had arrived on my own because I'd been at work that day.
It's not in dispute, Mr. Fresco, but let's just run through the photograph. If you open the first photograph, 1132, that is a photograph of Tasha's restaurant. Can you confirm that?
The outside section, yes, I can.
And the same with 1133.
Correct, my lady, just from a different angle.
If you open at 1134, does that look familiar?
It does indeed. That would be the table that we were sitting at.
Is the one indicated with a red arrow?
Correct. It's in the furthermost corner towards the back right. It depends which way you're looking at it. Back side of the restaurant.
And photograph 1135 would also indicate your table, just from a different view. Am I right?
Correct, my lady.
If one uses photograph 1135, no, there's a better photograph. Let us go to 1137. That's a table from a different angle.
Correct, my lady.
Now 1138. Using the numbers, could you indicate who sat where?
I can. At number 1, Mr. Pistorius was sitting at. Number 3, Mr. Rooney. Number 2, Mr. Lorena. And number 4, myself, my lady.
Now, what happened there at Tasha's?
The accused had please asked me to pass my firearm to him.
Let us first identify your firearm.
It is a Glock 27, my lady.
Glock, Glock.
Yes, sir.
Glock 27.
Yes,
caliber?
It's a 40 caliber weapon.
So, why did you ask for your firearm?
I do not know.
What happened after you asked?
I had thought him being competent, I would not have to worry about why he had asked me to see my gun. Shortly, within a second or so, I had taken the weapon out from my carry position and passed it to him under the table. Now, if you have a look at the table itself, where I was sitting at position 4 and he was sitting at position 1, when you sit on those couches, you sit quite far back. So when I had passed the weapon to him, having sat forward from where I was, he had then come towards me to meet me theoretically halfway, my lady.
You said you thought he was competent. How would you think that?
We had been to the shooting range before, and I knew he had a big love for weapons, and having been around them for a long time, my assumption was that he had competency with it.
Please carry on, Mr. Fresco. You said you took it out of your carry position and you leaned forward.
Having met halfway, my lady, at the table, while the gun still, as soon as his hands had touched the weapon, whilst leaning forward, I said to him, "There is one up."
Now, your head positions at that time in relation to you and the accused, how would you describe that?
Fairly close at that specific time, my lady.
What then happened?
He had then taken the weapon under the table. Now, having warned that there was one up, at no time did I say, "Okay, I've taken the magazine out." Now, having obviously still been watching him, I cannot say I saw what was done under the table because I cannot see through tables, but I'd seen a shoulder gesture which I had assumed was cycling the existing bullet out of the chamber.
We will lead expert evidence on it, but the firearm as you passed it to the accused,
Yes, sir.
being one up, being a Glock, what do you need to do for it to fire?
Milady, on that weapon, there is no specific safety clip, as there is no hammer on the weapon. On the specific trigger itself, in the middle, there's a hairline trigger that you have to decompress and then pull through for the weapon to fire.
Oh. Please carry on. You've now passed the firearm to him. You did not have time to say anything about the magazine. You saw shoulder movement. What happened then?
After him having taken the weapon and having cycled one out, what I don't think he had realized at the time, but he had cycled another bullet into the chamber of the gun. And at that specific moment, he had pulled the trigger to, at the time, supposedly make it safe.
What happened?
Almost instantly, milady, the most deafening hush you've ever heard had fallen over the...
You said he pulled the trigger. Did a shot go off or what happened?
Yes, milady, a shot had gone off. None of us had known where the shot had gone off or where the bullet had projected to.
I interrupted you when you said something about its silence. What happened just after the shot was fired?
As soon as that had happened, I think the four of us had caught an extremely big fright, and I just said, just carry on as if nothing has happened. Because where we were seated in the restaurant is the furthermost corner towards the back of the restaurant, and behind the wall closest to number 1 and 2 in the picture is the kitchen. I think it's safe to say that some people in the restaurant may have thought it could have been a gas explosion coming from the kitchen. I'm no expert, but that's what I could have thought about.
Okay, so what was the accused's reaction?
Instantly, he had passed the weapon back to me under the table, and he said, "Please, there's too much media hype around me at the moment. Please, can you take the rap for it?"
What happened next?
Being a friend, I said, "I would with pleasure, my lady."
Then what happened?
Shortly thereafter, the sounds in the restaurant returned back to normal, as if nothing had happened.
Yes, and then?
Then the owner's wife had come to me and said, "What just happened?" To which I had replied, "I'm really sorry. My gun had gone off unintentionally."
Did the accused say anything when she was there?
Not at that time, no.
Did somebody else approach your table?
A little while after that, the owner had come to our table.
And what happened?
And I had said again, I had just repeatedly apologized for what had just happened, my lady.
Did you give an explanation what happened?
I just said my gun had fallen out of my shorts and it had gone off.
Did the accused give an explanation?
No, he did not.
Now, what happened after that?
A little while after the owner had come and gone, shortly thereafter we had paid the bill, and we had all decided to leave.
Now, do you know if somebody was injured during this discharge of a firearm?
It was most probably shrapnel from either tile or from the bullet itself that had nicked Kevin Lorena.
Where?
It was either on his shin or on his foot.
Did you see it?
I didn't see anything happen specifically, but there were a couple of traces of blood.
You saw the blood?
Yes, sir, I did. And we had basically just said, "Put your foot down, don't bring any attention to the situation at the moment, my lady."
Did you discuss this incident with the accused afterwards?
From what I can remember, this was never brought up again.
Did you pay for the damage?
I had offered to the owner, specifically stating that because it was my fault, I would be happy to reimburse whatever the costs may have been for the damage caused.
Thank you, my lady. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Rowe.
Mr. Fresco, looking at your statement, and we will get to it, I get the distinct impression that you were assisted by an attorney at the time.
I had gone to meet with an attorney at the time.
Who was the attorney?
Mr. Manny Witz was the advocate, and Mr. Cliff Alexander at the time.
And they assisted you then in making your statement.
To specifically make sure that I wasn't going to be...
Can you speak up a little bit, please, Mr. Fresco?
Specifically to make sure that I wasn't going to put myself in any line of trouble, I had gone to seek legal advice, my lady.
It was specifically to make sure that you don't put yourself in trouble.
Correct.
In what trouble would that have been?
I was not the one that had done anything wrong, just to specifically make sure... Just to specifically make sure that I
was... Statement with all the facts.
From what I can remember at that time, yes, my lady, that's what I had gone to do.
So, what you could remember at the time, you shared with the attorney and the advocate.
Yes, my lady.
And your statement was then settled and you were satisfied with it.
At that time, yes, my lady.
Now,
it was the truth that I had given.
I'm sorry, you added?
It was the truth that I had given at the time, my lady.
What was the truth?
The affidavit or my statement.
It would, of course, have been easy because you know it was an affidavit that would be used in the present trial against Mr. Pistorius.
Could you repeat that, please?
You knew it was an affidavit to be used in the trial against Mr. Pistorius.
Yes, I did.
And one thing would have been easy, that if Mr. Pistorius had asked you to take the blame for the shot going off, it was easy to put that in your statement.
Correct.
Did you?
I did not.
Why did you not?
I do not know why I did not, but what I had done is I had told in one of the other meetings, I had said I had brought that up to them.
Mr. Fresco, you go to an attorney, you go to an advocate, and you tell them the truth. You want to protect yourself. And I think it's just fair to say that you would share all the bad and the good facts with them to make sure that you can get your protection.
Yes, my lady.
And we know now that part is not in your statement.
Correct, my lady.
And the reason for that?
I can't give you a reason for that.
You did not deliberately withhold that.
No, I did not.
Did not remember it at the time.
Something that I had not thought about at the time, my lady.
Because they went through the whole incident with you in your statement, and notwithstanding that fact, you did not think about it.
I had not at the time, no.
What you did think about was that you apologized to the owner's wife for the incident.
Correct, and once we had left, we had apologized again.
And what you did think about is that you also apologized to the husband.
Correct. Whilst leaving, the accused had also apologized, and then we had left.
What did he say?
I'm sorry.
And how did you apologize to the owner's wife? By saying what to her?
I'm sorry, the gun had gone off unintentionally.
Why did you not tell her that it fell out of your pocket?
All I had done was I had said I apologize because the gun had gone off unintentionally. Seeing that it was not me that had discharged the weapon, I had not come to think of a reason to explain why I would have to explain why it had gone off, my lady.
So at the time when the owner's wife came to you, did not have enough time to make up a story as yet?
I didn't have to make up a story, but that's what I had said.
Yes, but it's my understanding there was a reason why you did not tell her that it fell out of your pocket, and only the husband later.
I had not thought about that, Your Honor. Sorry, my lady.
You had not thought about it when you were speaking to his wife or to the husband?
To his wife, as she was the first person that had come to the table.
And so must I understand when the husband came, you had now a time to think out the story, to explain it?
Correct, my lady.
You're satisfied that's correct?
Yes.
You see, Mr. Fresco, because we've heard the evidence of Mr. Lupus and Mrs. Lupus, and who came to your table first was the husband and not the wife.
From what I can remember, and what my memory serves me, is that she had come to the table first, my lady.
Is there any difficulty maybe that you know of that would have influenced your memory of the day?
No.
Because that's also the version of Mr. Pistorius when he gives evidence to say that the husband came to the table first. And I may say to you, that was the husband's evidence and that was the wife's evidence.
Well, he can say what he's already said that, so...
What however troubles me is this, that you're satisfied that when the wife came, that you did not have enough time to think out a story, but when the husband came, because of the time delay, you had time to think out the story. But that answer cannot be correct if the husband came first. That's what I put to you.
What my memory serves to remind me was that the husband had come after the wife had come first.
You also, will you agree, or let me ask you this, that you put it in your statement made with the assistance of your advocate and your attorney, that you made up a story that the firearm fell out of your pocket?
Can you repeat that, please?
In that statement where you were assisted by an attorney and an advocate, that you state in that statement that you had made up the story that the firearm had fallen out of your pocket.
First of all, the firearm was not in my pocket, my lady. And secondly, I cannot recall if I had made up a story or an excuse.
Can you remember what's in your statement?
I remember parts of it. If it's possible, if you could read it to me, please.
Have you not read your statement before giving evidence?
I have read it in the past, yes.
When last have you read your statement, Mr. Fresco?
Once I had given it to Detective Van Aert.
And now, before giving evidence, I know how it works with witnesses. You look at your statement before you
I
come
had
in.
not read my statement before I've been called in, my
Not
lady.
today?
Or yesterday.
Also not yesterday. So, can you remember what's in your statement?
Not every single thing word for word, but I can remember a lot of it.
If I put it to you, would it make sense? Let's first test this, that the only thing you said, that I apologize to her for the incident. And I apologize to him too.
Correct.
So why did you make now a statement under the protection of a 204, because that's how a statement starts, it says in terms of section 204. And we know when you do something like that, you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else but the truth.
Which is what I'm doing.
So why did you not put in your statement that I made up a lie? I did not only apologize I made up a lie to take the blame on me.
That is correct.
No, it's not
Because that
correct.
is what my friend had asked me to do.
That's not what I'm asking you, Mr. Fresco. Is why did you not put it in that Section 204 statement?
I do not know, my lady.
Because what we know now from your evidence, two crucial aspects. And the one is that Mr. Pistorius asked you to take the blame, and the second is that you made up a false story which you shared with the husband. Both of them are not in your statement.
That is correct, my lady.
Why not?
I can't tell you because I don't know why.
Yes.
But what I can tell you is that what happened, my version of events, was the truth.
Yes. Mr. Fresco, you say that Mr. Pistorius pulled the trigger.
I could not see that, but seeing that he was the one that had the weapon in his control at that time, it's the only person that it could have been.
Mr. Fresco, what I'm also going to ask you about is this. When Mr. Lerena gave evidence, it was put to him that it was noisy in the restaurant. It was lunchtime, we know.
Correct, my lady.
And that if you said that it was one up, that Mr. Pistorius did not hear you saying that.
That is...
Just hear me out. You follow what I've put to you this far?
I have.
What is significant today is that you tender evidence to show how close your heads were when you told him that, to make sure that Mr. Pistorius cannot hide behind the noise in the restaurant.
He could not have hidden behind the noise in the restaurant, seeing the position of our heads at that time.
What I need to know, Mr. Fresco, how did this evidence come about? That you spontaneously offered that? Did someone tell you that was raised by Mr. Pistorius?
Repeat that, please.
Did someone tell you that it was raised by Mr. Pistorius, that he did not, if you said it, that he did not hear you saying that it was one up?
The acoustics in the restaurant are terrible, specifically during lunch hours or dinner time. But because of the proximity of our heads to each other, my lady, it was impossible that he could not have heard what I had said to him about there being one up with a weapon.
My question is actually different. Did someone bring that to your attention, that was raised by Mr. Pistorius? That he could not hear it if you said it? Or do you
No.
say it's just a coincidence that you tendered spontaneously the heads coming together to make sure that he would have heard?
You could not reach each other, having been so far apart from each other.
I will come back to the restaurant, but before I move on there, what did Mr. Pistorius apologize about to the owner?
He did not state, he just said, "I'm sorry."
Can you remember if Mr. Pistorius apologized? He said it was his fault, and then I quote a sentence and see if it rings a bell. I and Darren kept on telling Oscar not to talk. Does that ring a bell?
Who had said that?
The words, now I just want to know if those words would ring a bell. I and Darren kept on telling Oscar not to talk.
About what?
About him saying that it's his fault, that he would pay for the damages.
All that he had said once we had left to the owner of the restaurant was, "I am sorry."
So you would say that there's no chance that this could be true if someone said, I and Darren kept on telling Oscar not to talk. Or can't you remember it?
I don't remember anything along those lines, my lady.
Okay, can you just remind me at what point was that said?
That was after the...
After the
after he spoke to you,
No,
handing the firearm back to you?
this was, milady, after we had paid the bill and we were all leaving the restaurant.
Mr. Fresco, how many times on that day coming from the Vaal River were you stopped by the Metro Police?
We were stopped on 2 separate occasions
What was the first occasion for?
for not having a number plate affixed to the vehicle.
And what happened there?
We had got a fine for that.
What happened to the fine?
The fine had been paid.
Who paid it?
From the dealership had paid it.
Who's the dealership?
Santon Auto.
And the person?
I don't know who pays their bills.
Who's in control there?
The owner, the owner would not pay for the bills, but the dealer
Who's
principal,
the owner there?
Mr. Justin Devaris.
And did he pay it?
I'm sure he did not pay for it himself, but one of the clerks, whoever works there, may have paid for it.
Did he pay it? Or
I
the
don't
owner?
I don't know who had paid it because I had given the fines over to them.
But was it paid?
I don't know, Your Honor, milady.
And the second time?
Second time, same as the first time that I'm going to tell you, I don't know if it was paid or not. I had handed the fines over.
What was the fine for? What speed?
Exceeding the speed limit. I don't know the exact speed.
Can't remember.
No, I can't.
What was the maximum speed you were doing in a day?
I can't remember that day.
260 on the speedometer? Because that's something that you should remember.
I can't remember how fast I was driving that day.
Mr. Fresco, I've never traveled 260, but what I want to say to you, of course, if I do, that's something that I will remember. That's why I ask you, don't you remember something like that?
No, I don't.
Do you remember?
Just hold on a minute. Is there something wrong? Something wrong with the machine. We'll take a 10 minutes break. We'll be waiting outside. still under oath, Mr. Fresco. Yes, Mr. Blue.
Lady, my apologies. I may have to repeat some questions, I realise, because we compared. So if you would bear with me on that.
Yes, nice.
Mr. Fresco, I'm sorry, I have to repeat some questions for recording purposes. You said that you were issued with 2 fines and that both were paid. That was your initial evidence.
From what I understand, yes.
Yes. I also asked you about the high speed that you were driving, and what is your answer to that?
As I said, you had said a speed and I said I can't remember.
You're not denying it.
If I can't remember, how can I deny it?
Well, I think you can. If you tell me that I drove a certain day at 260 kilometers an hour and there was no way that I could have done it, I would deny it. I won't say I can't remember it. That's the point I'm making. What do you say to that?
As I said before, I can't remember.
So must I then accept that you cannot deny it?
I can't deny if I can't remember.
You said that you were stopped on 2 occasions. The one for the number plate and the one for speed.
Correct.
And on both occasions you received a fine, one for the number plates and one for the speed.
I did, my lady.
You see, I looked at your evidence in chief, Mr. Fresco, and what you said there, that you were stopped, and at that scene, that shortly thereafter another set of policemen arrived at the scene and said that they'd been chasing you from the toll plaza.
Correct.
But that cannot be, because you had left, because you were not stopped once, but you were stopped, and on a later occasion you were again stopped.
Correct.
So I'm trying to understand on what basis you would have told the court that when you were still at the scene after being stopped for the number plate, another set of policemen or traffic officers...
No. Initially, when we had been stopped for the number plates, that was just after we started the journey home.
Would you repeat that, please?
Just after we had left the Vaal River, shortly, I can't exactly remember a timeline, we were stopped for the first time.
That's for the number plates.
Correct.
And then?
Later on the drive home, the lady was stopped for speeding.
Where was that in relation to the first place?
Quite a way away, a long way away. I can't give you an exact distance because I don't know.
Still on the highway?
The one where we got stopped was just after the Grasmere toll plaza.
The first time or the second time?
Second time for speeding after the Grasmere toll plaza.
But what I'm asking you about is your evidence in chief. When you said that you were still at the scene when another set of policemen...
That was the second time.
So you were stopped the second time for speeding,
which was when the policeman touched the accused weapon. That was the second time we were stopped. The first time we were stopped was for the number plates.
So let me understand. The second time where you stopped for speed, and after being stopped for speed, other policemen came and also complained about speeding.
They had said something about speeding. They didn't do anything else about it.
And you were issued with a ticket?
Correct, my lady.
What did you do with that ticket?
As I'd said before, both fines were handed over at the dealership.
I'm going to test if that could be correct.
Okay.
Mr. Fresco, that speeding ticket was issued in your name.
Correct.
It was you who contravened.
Correct.
Why is it relevant to the dealer?
It's not. But I just handed it over at the same time.
What Mr. Pistorius will say, what you did is you scrambled the ticket and threw it in the footwell on the left side. That's what happened to that ticket. It was never paid.
That was the first fine.
So the first time,
Both.
how did you treat that ticket?
Which one? Could you repeat that, please?
Well, tell me about the scrambling of the ticket. Scrambling of it.
The officer was taking a really long time to write the ticket, and then when I got it, I scrumpled it and I threw it on the floor.
And then what happened to that ticket?
They were both given across.
But I still fail to understand
Because
why.
as you had asked me if it was in my name, both tickets were in my name, seeing that I was driving on both occasions. So both tickets were handed over at the same time, my lady.
Did you not, the two of you, Mr. Pistorius and you, not say that you wanted to shoot a robot?
I don't ever remember saying that, my lady.
My understanding of your evidence is different. It is that you were driving and it was quite some time after being stopped. The second time, that without you knowing, out of the blue, Mr. Pistorius fired a shot through the open sunroof.
That was on the way home after having gone to those other people's houses, that he had fired the weapon out the sunroof.
Yes, the emphasis is a bit different. It was quite some distance from where you had been stopped the last time.
It was quite some time after we had been stopped.
And before the firing of the shot, there was no warning that it was about to happen.
No.
There was no talking about it.
None, my lady.
There was no irritation about it.
No, because this was quite a long time after we had been stopped.
There was no one being furious about anything before.
No.
There was no one laughing about it.
No. It was just on the drive after we had left these other people's houses.
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue, your
No
my
warning.
lady. None, my lady.
I'm just trying to think what we should do and how I should treat the evidence of Ms. Taylor, where she said that Oscar and Darren were pretty anxious and a little bit irritated with the policeman. And so they laughed and they said that they wanted to shoot a robot. And then Oscar shot a bullet out of the sunroof. That would not be true according to you.
Not what I remember.
Well, that's an interesting answer. Not what I remember. Is it that you can't remember, that you say she may have spoken the truth? Or is it that you're happy and satisfied that your version is the truth?
That's what I'm happy, that my version is the truth, my lady.
But then your answer should be, that did not happen when I was in the car. Ms. Taylor's version, that did not happen. Would that be fair?
Well, if you're going to word it like that, then yes, no, that did not happen.
Yes. Just explain to the court. You left the scene after being stopped the second time, and take it from there. Where did you go to?
I don't know who these people were. Basically, Oscar had said, please, we need to go to these people's place to sort out something either pertaining to a gun license or a weapon itself, and that's where we went.
According to Ms. Taylor, she remembered about signing of papers, but it was close to the Vaal River.
No, it was nowhere near the Vaal River.
Where was it, more or less?
All I remember was that you had to go past on you had to go past Greenstone and just carry on all the way. There's an eco reserve on the left-hand side, and you just carried on going down that direction.
And from there, where did you go to?
To their house.
Whose house?
I do not know the people.
No, after that, after being to the house.
After we actually went to the gourmet garage for dinner, my lady.
What time was that?
I can't give you a time. What I can tell you is that on the way home, it's a bit random though, but it was a beautiful sunset. And I remember, so it must have been a little while later after the sun had set, my lady.
The time given of this offence is 30 September 2012. Would that accord with your memory?
It does, my lady.
So when did you see this beautiful sunset?
On the way from these people's place to the restaurant for dinner.
And which you go to the gourmet cafe there?
Gourmet garage in Athol Square, my lady.
And after that?
After that, I can't remember what happened.
How long did you stay there?
We had a dinner, and on the way out, there was an elderly couple that was sitting at a table, a couple of tables away from us. And when we were leaving, they had started discussing Oscar and the lady at the table, I'm not sure, something pertaining to golf. And then I carried on walking out the restaurant.
I couldn't hear the part about golf.
Something pertaining to golf, and then I had walked out the restaurant.
What pertained to golf?
I don't know. Something that either they had played together or she saw him playing somewhere before, and then I had walked out the restaurant, my lady.
And from there, where did you go?
I can't remember where we left from there.
I
do not know where we went from there.
Now let's take it back. You drive from this house from somewhere. It's a beautiful sunset, and you go to have dinner. Straight from that house to dinner.
Yes.
Who was at the dinner?
The accused, Sam Taylor, and myself were at dinner.
Who were there, sorry? The accused, and the three of you.
Correct.
And now after dinner, you have one car.
I was saying I do not know what happened after that.
I understand that, but am I correct to say you're still there in the same car?
Well, we arrived there in the same car, so yes.
So what happened now?
As I just said previously, I do not know what happened after that. I can't remember what happened after that.
But how's that you can give evidence about the events in the morning or in the afternoon,
in the
but
evening,
then suddenly there's a blank?
Not suddenly a blank. I just can't remember how we went our own separate ways, or if we went our own separate ways, or if I had dropped him, or if he had dropped me. I do not know.
I tell you what I think it is. You might have heard that a statement was put that Mr. Pistorius played golf at St. Andrews. And did that contribute to you now realizing I'm not sure now about my facts, and
No,
I'm going to say that I can't remember?
It's got nothing to do with that. Why would that pertain to the situation?
So how is it that you remember up to dinner, and you can even remember a conversation, something about golf with someone that spoke to Mr. Pistorius?
Because I was walking right behind him when we were leaving the restaurant. He had then started talking to her, and then I then walked out.
I fully understand that, but you can remember so well that you walked behind them, remember walking behind them, remember overhearing this conversation, and then?
I walked out the restaurant.
And from there on?
I do not know.
It's just blank. You have no memory.
I can't remember.
From when do you remember again?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Can you remember
from
anything about the evening after the restaurant, after walking behind them?
No, I can't.
Not a thing?
No.
My lady, would this be an opportune time? It's 1:00.
We'll take our journey.